Hello, everybody. Dear baccalaureate candidates throughout the country, welcome to a new lesson. It is presented by myself, Munir Mili, senior teacher at Qsibt al-Madouni Secondary School in the region of Monastir. And I prepared it under the pedagogical supervision of Mrs. Camelia Difalla, our English language inspector. It's from Unit 4, Life Issues. It's entitled If, a poem by Rudyard Kipling, and it's only for fourth formers arts. The terminal objective of our lesson will be writing a speech about the importance of adopting positive values or attitudes and avoiding negative ones. We will start by exploring an inspirational poem and grasp its message. Then we are going to read some invaluable father's tips to his son and recycle conditionals type 0 and 1. Okay, let's start by exploring these visuals. Who can you see in these pictures? Of course, it looks like a father and a son enjoying themselves, fishing. What does a father have more than a son thanks to the age difference? We may say he has more knowledge of life, more experience, and consequently more wisdom. What may the conversation between them go about while fishing? They are not going to spend the whole session quiet, of course. A father would, in those cases, would certainly give advice to his son and nurture him, care for him, teach him or show him how to grow up, what attitudes he must have. What basic advice do parents give their children? Everyday advice. They say things like, you should help with the housework. You shouldn't trust strangers. Be careful with dealing with the strangers. You ought to be honest all the time and in all circumstances. You oughtn't to cheat in exams. This is for you. Also, it's useful. You should be, consequently, virtuous, and you should never be vicious. You must be obedient. Don't be lazy. Let's classify these words into virtues and vices. We start with trust. I'd like you to guess before I show you the answer. Of course, trust is a virtue. It's a positive quality. Wisdom is a virtue. Loathing is extreme hatred. It's, of course, a vice. Dishonesty is a vice. It goes to the dustbin, as you can see. Confidence, self-confidence, not only in yourself, but having confidence in others is a virtue also. Victory is a virtue. Hatred is clearly a vice. Arrogance, you remember, considering yourself superior to others, is a vice. Sensibility, wisdom, using your mind, being reasonable, it has nothing to do with the senses. That's sensitive, and here it is sensibility. You are sensible. It means you are reasonable. You use your mind in all circumstances. That is clearly a virtue, of course. Forgiveness, pardoning people even if they did wrong to you. Forgive. That's forgiveness. Jealousy is a vice. Cowardice is a vice. Honesty is a positive attitude, it's a virtue. Lying is clearly a vice. Cheating is undoubtedly a vice. And selfishness is a vice too. I'd like you to focus on the flower, please, not on the dustbin. Remember the flower of virtue. That's why we need to get rid of all the vice and instill or inculcate or implant the virtue or the moral values in our children. Kids are important. They represent the future. We should start by changing them in a positive way, of course. Now, let's read. And if you'd like to read, you open your books, you have it on the book, and listen to Rudyard Kipling's poem entitled If. Just a few words about the poem, or the poet, sorry. Rudyard Kipling was born in 1865 and died in 1936. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1907. And the poem itself was published in 1910, and it was written as a father's advice to his son. I hope you got your books. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you. If all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son. All right, let's see together the main insights offered by the poem. We are not going to go through all of them. Okay. An attitude, the first attitude is keep your self-esteem, do that or don't that, and the line justifying it, it's of course to do, something to do, and the justification is in line number 1 when it says, if you can keep your head, keeping your head means keeping your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is the image that one has about oneself. It's not what other people or how other people see you, it's how you see yourself. When you look yourself in the mirror, do you respect yourself or not? Of course, you have to keep your self-esteem in all circumstances. Number 2, have self-confidence, but understand what makes others doubt or suspect you and hesitate in dealing with you. It's, of course, something to do just to check line 3 and 4. If you can trust yourself, have confidence in yourself, when all men doubt you, but make allowance, take into consideration what other people think or say about you. Of course, everything is clear there. Never tell lies. Be patient. You have to be patient. Okay, number 9. Treat all people alike, in the same way. regardless of their status, social or economic or political status. It's, of course, something to do. We will check it in line 13 and 14 when Rudyard Kipling says, if you can talk with crowds, common people, normal people, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nobles, rich men, high class, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. So we treat all people the same. Be ambitious, number 10, the last one. Be ambitious, but at the same time, realistic. It's, of course, something to do. We justify it from lines 9 and 10, if you remember. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. Don't make your dreams control your life. Be down to earth. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. So it's good to have dreams, but be sure that your dreams are realizable and work for their realization, of course. Look at this sentence, which is a kind of conclusion from the poem. Let's finish it. If you have all those positive attitudes we mentioned before, you deserve to be, according to the last line of the poem, you deserve to be a man. And notice that the word man here is spelled with a capital letter. Spelling has a significance here. Because man, we don't mean by man here the sex, let's say, man versus woman. Man with capital M is a human being. So if you have all those positive values, you are a human being. Otherwise, you don't deserve to be called so. Words to sort out into pairs of synonyms. There are words taken from the poem and others I gave you as synonyms or ones with near meanings to them. Make allowance, impostors, unforgiving, virtue, foes, will, and will here is a noun. Huh? It has no relationship with the modal verb. Take into consideration honor and goodness, pretenders or frauds, determination, unpardoning, allowing no errors, no mistakes, and enemies. Make allowance goes with take into consideration. Impostors, pretenders, or frauds. Time, unforgiving. Unforgiving means unpardoning, allowing no errors, no mistakes. Foes. We need a plural noun to go with it. It's another word for enemies. Will, to have a strong will. Will is determination. And we move on to fill in the blanks in order to get a summary of the message conveyed by this poem. The words to use are in red: integrity, much, ultimately, values, failures, series, attempt, sake, maturing, becoming mature. This poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling, is a father's attempt, the father is trying to do something, attempt to provide his son with specific values to live by in life. Kipling is using these must be followed with a plural noun. These values, Kipling is using these values to define what makes a man a man. Remember, man means human being. He writes if to urge his son not to be too, we need an adjective, too much of any one thing, but to live life fully, completely, regardless of his successes, and something that contrasts to successes, failures, of course. He is saying to his son that yes, he may ultimately want to be successful, but in doing so, he should not sacrifice important values for the sake of success. This is because success will come and go. But integrity is forever. This poem gives an indication of the things one can strive. Strive means work seriously, work very hard to accomplish and maintain. While look at and, what comes after and is a verb in the ing form. So in most of the cases, we need one in the ing form. Maturing, becoming mature, maturing, and becoming an adult with integrity, with honesty, with goodness. To become a man is not one event that happens suddenly, all of a sudden, but it is a series, a series of attributes developed over a lifetime, accumulated, one by one. The poem is a set of rules for grown-up living and contains maxims for life. Now, look, we have a full stop, so automatically the answer is clear. The word must start with a capital letter. And by the way, it comes at the end because of that capital letter and because of its meaning, of course, which is ultimately meaning finally, in the end. Ultimately, the poem is a blueprint, a scheme, a plan for personal integrity, behavior, and self-development. Now, let's look and circle the right answer. The father in the poem, and in general, all fathers, wants his son to be responsible, of course, for any acts he does. He wants his son to be confident, to have self-confidence, to be patient, to be all the time truthful, calm in all situations, never lose your temper. A father doesn't like his son to lose his temper. Humble, modest, reliable. When someone counts on him, he is helpful. Match each paragraph with the right advice. Here is a father talking to his son, giving his son a lot of, or some pieces of advice. Okay. Seek quality, look for quality over quantity. Quality is more important. Give people due respect, the respect that they deserve. Place people over material needs. Human beings are more important than wealth. Okay? Be forever humble and measure your words and know their value. Let's read the first piece of advice given by a father to his son, a tip. A father says, there are two things in life which you should never shy away from. Shouldn't be ashamed of doing these two things. Never be afraid of saying, I don't know. I don't know something, I don't know that. and never hesitate to say, it was my mistake. Owing up to your faults, acknowledging your mistakes, owing up to your faults is the first step to avoiding them in the future. We can say, to sum up, be forever humble. The second tip, or the second piece of advice, remember, son, that fame, prosperity, and wealth are not the cornerstones, the most important things, the cornerstones of peace and happiness. They can only be achieved through nurturing and nourishing our relationships with those we love, those we respect and adore. Relations are man's biggest treasure. You see, we are talking about the human side and the material side. So you have to place people over your material needs. The next piece of advice says, while doing all the work for your sustenance, to make a living, so your sustenance means what you eat, what you drink, how things that help you to continue living. So while doing all the work for your sustenance, you will encounter many people and make acquaintances with them. Make it a point to treat them with utmost respect, maximum respect. Because no matter how immaterial your interaction with them may be, they have a hand in your growth. They participate in it. They contribute to it. Give people due respect, the respect that they deserve. The next piece of advice, remember we are saying what a father is saying to his son. There will come times in your life, my son, when you will be forced to think about whether to speak or not. Be the man who knows when to shut up. Also, be the one who knows when to speak up and when to hold one's tongue. Words matter. Words are important. Words count. So use them wisely. Measure your words and know their value. Good. That's Rudyard Kipling. Of course, we are going to match each paragraph with the right advice. The last one. Rather than sweating over completing your assigned task, sweating means working very hard, toiling. Rather than sweating over completing your assigned task, strive for excellence in whatever you do. Work towards achieving the highest quality in what you do, and it will become enjoyable as you do it. Quantity will also follow automatically. So that's seeking quality over quantity. Quality in our deeds is more important, far more important than quantity. The poem If contains a lot of poetic devices. We are going to explain or to focus only on 3 of them. The first one is the use of metaphors. A metaphor, to remind you, is kind of comparison between 2 incomparable things without using a word of comparison. Okay, for example, he says, forgiving minute, unpardoning minute. The meaning of that metaphor is expressed by the English saying, life is short and time is swift, so never waste any of your precious time. Personification is attributing human qualities either to animals or to inanimate objects, talking about something as if it were someone. Example in the poem, not make dreams your master. This reminds you, when you find the word master, we remember a master has a slave. A master is a person, a human being. Here, it refers to dreams, so it's as if dreams were our masters, which is something bad, of course. So the significance is don't be a slave to your dreams. Meet with triumph, again with capital letter, to personify it, and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same. The meaning is both are deceitful. They wrong you. They fool you. Neither of them stays for long or forever. So be careful of such impostors. By the way, these two lines are written at Wembley Stadium on the top of the players' entrance to remind them that they have to accept to win and to lose. The third poetic device is symbolism. Crowds, the word crowds, refers to normal people, common touch, ordinary people like you and me. Kings, it doesn't mean the real kings and queens. It refers to the VIPs, the very important persons, the noble, the rich, the influential, etc. And then the earth, with capital E, of course, is a symbol for material wealth and knowledge and experience. All right, we are going to draw a conclusion in the end after having looked at the poem, a conclusion which has the same structure of the poem. The poem starts with if, it means there is a condition, and the result of that condition is in the two last lines. So we can conclude that if you are virtuous, if you have all the positive values mentioned by Rudyard Kipling throughout his poem, the earth is yours, and you will be a man, my son. Sentences in English which contain if are conditional sentences. We are going to see what type of conditional it is. If you are, that is if plus the simple present. If you are virtuous, the earth is yours. So we have if plus simple present. In the second part, or in the result of the condition, we have the simple present, that is zero conditional. Conditional, zero. So its structure is if plus simple present, and we use it to talk about things that are always true. They happen automatically, mechanically, like, for example, scientific facts. Now, if we focus on the second verb, and you will be a man, my son, again, we started with if plus the simple present, but this time we have the future, the simple future, will plus the base form, will or won't, will not in the negative form. That is conditional number one, or the first conditional. Its structure is if plus simple present, you are. You will be, that is the simple future or the future simple. And we use the first conditional, conditional number one, in order to talk about things that are possible either now or in the future. Just one word to add. I told you that the zero conditional structure is if plus present. But in some cases, we have if plus simple present, and then the imperative form. Even the imperative form goes with the conditional zero, of course. For example, when you say, if you meet Tom, invite him to my birthday party. Invite is the imperative form. That is conditional 0, of course. We are going to do a task. We read the sentences and we put 0 for 0 conditional and 1 for condition number 1 in the appropriate square. If people find, if plus simple present, find out you lie to them, they won't. Won't is the short form of will not. They won't believe you anymore. That is, of course, conditional number 1. If I need, pocket money, I ask, simple present, I ask my parents instead of taking it without permission. That is conditional 0, of course. If you always adopt, if plus simple present, adopt, if you always adopt positive values, you are, simple present. You are virtuous, so conditional 0. If you pay heed or pay attention, if you pay heed to what others are saying about you, you will lose. Okay, you guessed right. That is will lose. That's the future, so it is conditional number 1, of course. Let's match sentence parts. If people criticize you, don't get upset. If people criticize you, don't get upset. Conditional 0, we have the imperative in the second part. You are saying, where is if in sentence number 2? Where if is there, because unless replaces if plus the negative. So unless you have, or if you don't have, of course. It's still the conditional, of course. By the way, we can sometimes find when also in conditional sentences. So if you have a moral compass, remember, which shows you good and bad, of course, you confuse good and evil. Unless you have, if you don't have a moral compass, you confuse automatically good and evil. You lose your way, you get lost. If you easily lose temper, you lose your temper means you get angry. People will provoke you on purpose. They know each time they provoke you, you will lose your temper. So they do it on purpose. If you easily lose your temper, what will happen? They will provoke you on purpose. If you read Kipling's poem, If, from time to time, every now and then, you will keep your values updated. Values need to be brushed, need to be taken care of. So read it from time to time. It reminds you of vice to avoid and virtue to follow, of course. We are going to close our lesson by this writing topic. Your school headmaster appointed you to address your schoolmates during the morning assembly. You remember when we listened to the national anthem and we salute the national flag. So you are going to address your schoolmates during the morning assembly before joining classes. You chose to talk to them about how to be virtuous citizens. You are supposed to write a 12-line speech. Remember, you are speaking in front of people, your schoolmates, sorry. Write a 12-line speech in which you mention 2 positive attitudes they have to adopt and 2 negative ones they have to avoid. Tell them about an incident from your own experience, something that happened to you that shows how virtuous you are. It's clear that we are supposed to write a speech. A speech is like no other type of writing. It has a specific content. I'm going to remind you, because you are my colleagues, your teachers certainly told you many a time how to write a speech. because we are talking to an audience, you have to start your speech by greeting and welcoming your audience, the people who are listening to you. Greetings depend on the time of the day, of course. Then don't forget to introduce yourself. Some people may not know who you are. Very often people in meetings are talking to each other, are asking about each other's news. So you need them to listen to you. How? You need to catch your audience's attention by asking a question, telling a joke or an anecdote, quoting someone important, giving statistics which may be shocking or provoking, so that people are all ears to you. Then you go straight to the topic. You talk to them about what you are supposed to say to them, the two positive attitudes they must adopt, and the two negative ones, and from your own experience, of course. You close your speech by thanking your audience for coming, for listening, etc. We are going to revise some useful expressions we use when we write a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows that. Honorable guests, I am honored to talk to you. It's my pleasure. Then when you introduce yourself, you can say very simply, I am, as I did in the beginning of the lesson, I am X or Y. My name is so-and-so. I am here to shed light on. And then you try to catch the attention. If you are introducing a quote or a proverb, you say, as the proverb goes. I quote William Shakespeare. Albert Einstein once said. If you are going to give figures or percentages or numbers, you can say figures prove or show that. A lot of people probably think that. The truth is that. It's unbelievable how or what or why. We should, we need, let's, don't do that. Beware of. This is when you are when you went through the topic, why you are addressing people. Believe me, in the long run, you will see that it's high time. Remember this expression. You have to use the past after the expression. It's time or it's high time. It's high time. You started revision, for example. Don't say it's high time. You start. I hope I am getting through to all of you. You finish, you close. I wish to thank you for your time. I am so grateful. I am also grateful. Thank you very much for attending this lesson. Thank you. See you maybe next year. Not you, of course, the new back candidates. I wish you good luck.